Hi, I'm Mitch, and welcome to the Restoration Road, where my guest today is my good friend, Ben Miles, president of Parkview Regional Medical Center. Ben treats his life as a ministry. Today, we're going to glean from his story and his insights into leadership. Ben, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for the invitation. It's great to join you, Mitch.
You're president of Parkview Regional Medical Center, which is a very, very big job.
Yeah, I tell you, it's a big job, but it's a rewarding job.
You never stop building, it seems.
No, I got to tell you, there has been growth in the 7 years that I've been here. It preceded me, and it's been fun to be a part of that. It's amazing to see how the community has really responded to what our leadership team and certainly our physicians have been such a key component of that. But just to see Parkview's presence in the community, we are all about healing, and our community has responded well to that.
Well, your life is a ministry. And I want to talk about those roots that you had. Was there a moment in time where you surrendered your life to Christ?
So, you know what? My father was a pastor. I would say, though, I'm not like that typical PK. My brother took care of that for us to live up to the reputation.
That's awesome.
Yeah. There's
gets thrown under
exactly.
the
I know. I'll just get it out of the way early. Yeah. But, I got to tell you, I mean, as a young boy, I just remember resonating with the story of Samuel and just having a heart for God early. And so surrendering my heart as a boy of 5, 6 years old even, and spending a lot of time down at that altar and praying and wearing the knees of my jeans out for all the good reasons there.
Do you think that's what you're going to do as a kid?
Well, maybe
I mean, when you were young, did you think that's what
I absolutely did. Yeah, I thought that would be the case. And really in time of counsel with my dad, I really just was looking for his advice. Dad, do you think that I'm going to be a minister? And he said, son, you already are. Your ministry is wherever God calls you to be. And he said, if that's behind a pulpit, and at times it has been, my calling was, at least for this phase of my life, into healthcare, and have loved serving the community ever since.
Where'd you grow up?
So I grew up in the Detroit area. Moved around the state a bit as my dad. We followed him as he would go to different churches. But most of it was in the Metro Detroit area.
And what did you do in high school? Did you do sports, music? What was your thing?
Yeah, so, was a very good student, was president of the National Honor Society, was very involved in student government in that, was a student athlete, wrestled a little bit, but mostly it was football.
Kind of look like you might be able to do both those things.
It's funny. It was funny, though. A lot of my blossoming, if you will, didn't happen until really my senior year and the year after. And I remember going back to visit my high school coach, and he said, where was this last year?
That is awesome.
I know. I said, if I had a year of eligibility, I'd give it to you, but I don't. So
how did you decide where to go to college?
So again, it was just a very prayerful decision. I had it narrowed down to a few. Actually, Taylor was on that list and had some really good friends that went to Taylor, but ultimately was offered a full-ride academic scholarship to Wayne State University in Detroit. And this is one of those things, I truly just leaned into, and don't make everything kind of by that gut feel, if you will, but definitely feel like God had said, for you, your path is at Wayne State University. Ultimately, it's where I ended up meeting my wife. And so I will tell you, 22 years later, I believe I heard correctly.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, but it was a great experience there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So where do you find the prompting to major in a healthcare administrative degree?
So, I've always been drawn to medicine. Really wondered if I would be in medicine out of the gate, and started down a pre-med path, actually, but opted against it, ultimately recognizing that I felt like I could be more effective in a healthcare administration role. So, that added just a skosh of time, but really felt like I made the most out of that opportunity. And started in the healthcare finance world, but really found that there was a path that led me into the administrative side of things. Obviously, coming to Fort Wayne, that has taken on a dimension that I couldn't have asked for and expected that it would be this great.
We're thankful you're here.
Yeah.
Where did you end up out of college?
So out of college, again, in the Detroit area, serving at a local hospital, pursued my MBA. My wife and I got married. Actually, the deal with our parents is that we at least needed to be in striking distance, so I made that happen. I mean, if I wasn't focused before, but, was able to make that happen. We got married in 97 and started building our family there. Our oldest daughter, we have three. She was born in '02. And around that time, I was most of the way through my master's degree, but serving in, a hospital finance role, but really kind of growing dissatisfied, if you will. Love what I did, love the organization, but felt like I wanted to make that crossover. And it was around that time that our health system was recognizing that we needed to change how we did business. And so we started adopting Lean Six Sigma. And so I was one of the first black belts trained in our health system. And I'll not forget, I had a mentor at the time. He was chief operating officer for our biggest hospital. He sits down with me and he says, "Ben, I can't believe what a risk you've taken with your career." And I just remember all the spit in my mouth drying up, thinking, oh my gosh, what did I just do? Failure never crossed my mind. I felt like God was in this. And I said, so tell me what you mean by that, Ron. And he said, this was an unproven system in healthcare. What were we going to be able to do with that? And after a moment of kind of swallowing
This is Jack
hard,
Welch's system taken to the medical
healthcare,
field.
exactly. But you know what? I'll tell you, I think change management is change management. And it comes down to relationships, connecting with others, and I think using good information to make good decisions. So I was able to lead some great teams, make some great impacts out of the gate. And that opened up for me, I think, some great opportunities to grow my career and really launch into ultimately what I've really enjoyed, and that's been leading from a healthcare administration perspective.
Is it that from there that you come to Fort Wayne?
No, actually,
What
so
happens in between?
kind of an interesting thing for me. I spent 11 years with that system, but I had different leaders tap me on the shoulder and provide opportunities. So it was from finance to Six Sigma. I was able to be the project director for a new hospital being built, which was a phenomenal experience. Then started getting into physician practice management, service line leadership, and it was there that really the operations started taking hold. About 7 years ago, though, I had some friends who I knew in Detroit give me a call and say, hey, you should come and check out Fort Wayne. And so it was one of those things, Mitch, where, my wife and I weren't looking, but we certainly felt a stir and decided, you know what, we should check this out. So what I knew of Fort Wayne was going to visit my buddies who were at Taylor many years ago. Still got a ticket that I will not forget in Coldwater, Michigan.
A speeding ticket?
A speeding ticket. It was when it was 55, but I didn't.
Everybody got
I
one when it
know
was 55.
my car couldn't go over 55, but they said it could. But so I came down to Fort Wayne and really didn't know much, and it's not that far away. And it was meeting with some leaders, but especially our CEO, Mike Packnett, that I thought, wow, there is something special happening here. I've got to come check this out. In fact, going home to Stacy that evening, and she just looked, I didn't have to say a word, and she goes, something happened. And I go, honey, it did. I thought, I didn't go in looking for a sign, but I had nothing to lose. And the conversation I had with Mike, I was expecting it to take a short amount of time. We spent over 3 hours together, and it was amazing.
Can you describe it? Is it okay to talk about some of it?
Sure, I'd be happy to. It's interesting. So one of the first questions he asked me is, he said, so what do you do for leadership development? And, so I'm pretty naive, not knowing a whole lot about Fort Wayne. It was around August 2012. And so I said, not sure if you're familiar with the Global Leadership Summit, not recognizing that we're the largest offsite campus. But I said, I'm a believer that you need to feed your spirit, that we need to grow professionally, but that we need to grow personally, interpersonally, spiritually. And so I said, it's one of those areas that I said, I just make it a point to be a part of the summit, love being a part of that, very involved civically, personally with my family, professionally. But I said, the summit is special because I think it touches all those bases. So he closes his door and sits down and leans in, and I thought, this is either going to get really good or really bad. And to my delight, it was so good. And he shared his heart, how he had been praying for this position, how he had been praying that God would send leaders to this health system that matched his heart. And I'll tell you, you know, it sounds so cliche, especially in this day and age, to talk about a servant leader. That is what I found here at Parkview. And I believe that like has attracted like. And I'm not trying to put myself in any way. I'm just saying that Mike and our board has been so purposeful, attracting people who aren't just really good at healthcare, but have a love for our community and doing good. And I will tell you, as a believer, it has been so refreshing. I came from a faith-based health system, and I love those roots.
Mm-hmm.
But here, I have been able to live my faith out in a way that is even more full and more rewarding, and not in a way where it has been, you know, to anyone else's detriment. It's just with authenticity,
Mm-hmm.
and it's resonated so deeply with those with whom I serve.
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
You go back with Stacy and you realize something in Fort Wayne happened and it was special. How long does it take you to make the transition? Does Mike call you right away and said, "Come down here, man," or
Right,
how's that
right.
all
You
work?
know, he couldn't call fast enough. I was camping over that phone type of thing. But you know, these processes, you know, what I appreciate is that it's a very deliberate process.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of vetting, and so there were a few rounds that we had to go through. But ultimately, by the end of October, so over a couple months, is how that played out. And I gave my notice, and it was early December 2012, where we came on board, and it has been a joy and a blessing to be here ever since.
I know your heart and your wisdom. Exiting well is a big deal to you, I'm sure. How did you exit well from your previous position?
You know, so you know, I appreciate you saying that, because I think that when you lead with an open heart and with integrity, I think that you're able to have conversations that are not transactional because they're relationship based,
Mm-hmm.
right? I was able to share with my leadership at the time, with the board. They were very disappointed. They tried to counter. I shared with them, though, that it wasn't about a money thing or a job thing. I honored the work that I had done with that organization, but said, this is something that I'm moving toward, not so much something that I'm moving away from. I can tell you that as much as I considered this professionally, this is something that one of the most impactful moments for me. I was on the board at my church, actually, and to this day, the senior pastor where I attended in Detroit is a dear, dear friend.
Mm-hmm.
And sitting in Randy's office, and him looking at me through tears, and I said, "Tell me, what is God telling you?" And he said, "I don't want to tell you,"
Oh,
but he said, "God is in this for you."
oh my.
And so for me to know that act, because selfishly, I was hoping that he'd say, "You're supposed to stay," and I know that's what he wanted, but I think our love for one another and the respect for what we truly felt led to say was so deep. Even with my church family there, and I'm an advisory elder at that church still, I believe there's a way of connecting and fostering and honoring those relationships. So it's not really a goodbye. It just changes how that looks.
Mm, that's beautiful.
Hmm.
You come to Parkview, and the leadership team has a special service that they do to commission you and bring you in. Can you describe what that evening was like?
Absolutely. You know, I've had a number of people talk to me about that over the years. And in fact, in my office, I still have a picture framed of that moment over my desk. Um, I wouldn't say it about many things, but that was one of the holiest moments of my life. And to find that from an organization that really doesn't have, I mean, there's a great faith tradition at
Mm-hmm.
Parkview, but it's not like we wear it on our sleeve
Mm-hmm.
there. So there was this commissioning service where we asked for God's guidance, wisdom, providence over me and a couple other leaders that were moving into new positions. I had an opportunity, had been a part of the organization for a short period of time, and was able to have a few coworkers with whom I'd built an early and great friendship that continues to this day. They were able to be a part of the laying on of hands. And my family, my young girls, were up there. And I had asked Mike, I said, "Is it okay that my family be a part of this too? You know, we work long hours. We give of ourselves fully." But I said, "It's a sacrifice for my family. I want my girls to be able to look back at that picture and my wife to do the same, and to know they were a part of commissioning me for this role too." And it was just a
That's
very,
insightful.
oh, well, thank you. But it was a very easy and quick yes. And I just remember, I get goosebumps still thinking about what a humbling experience that was. And to this day, just kind of thinking back over what that really means. You mentioned it's a big role, and it is, because there are hundreds of thousands of lives that we touch on a regular basis. And it really comes down to how well can we serve? How can we deliver excellence, especially with those who need us at a point in their life where they're the most poor and vulnerable? For us, what's been so great about that is it's not just meeting a physical need. We have invested heavily in our spiritual care, and we want to care for the whole person.
Mhm.
So it's been an amazing experience being there.
You come in to lead Parkview. What do you do your first day, your first week, your first month, your first year? I'm really curious as a leader how you approach those milestone moments, if you have a vision in your mind,
Mm.
but how all of that unfolds to kind of hit the ground running.
It's a great question. What I've learned is to treat each day, and especially this new experience, with an open hand. I couldn't have told you, I don't mind sharing, I'm 45, just turned 45 recently.
You look 35 or less.
I owe you another lunch, my friend. But I couldn't have predicted that I'd have the privilege of being a part of this community, that I'd have the wonderful honor of serving in the role that I do, not only at Parkview, but in the organizations with whom I serve on boards and whatnot. So, I try to be a learner. I try to be in that moment and be purposeful in my interactions. But, especially out of the gate, I felt like there was a whole history that needed to become part of my history. There were people with whom I needed to connect and build relationships. So out of the gate, I just wanted to be a sponge. I wanted people to pour into me, and I wanted to share authentically my heart. There are a lot of things that people have said about me over time. I hope most of them have been good. But one of them has been being approachable. I love
Yes.
walking down the hallway, and, whether it's a physician, even patients and family members who are there and saying, "Hey, my loved one is in," and they call for me, and I'm happy to go and visit. It doesn't matter who our staff is. I love visiting, particularly sites where I've been and I haven't had a chance to go as frequently, and to see staff come run and give me a hug. To me, you can't buy that.
Mm-mm.
And I think it does come down to, really, in a lot of ways, Mitch, why were we created? And it was for relationship. And when we can lean into that,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, this is special.
Mm-hmm. You have, I'm going to do the 3 M's of business, money, marketing, and management. You have a strong background in all three. Do you have a philosophy in the way you think money and finances should be done? Do you have one with how you should manage people? Do you have one with how you should market? How do you lead all three of those categories?
That's great way of putting it. Obviously, it's served many organizations well. I think for us, let me put it in the Parkview paradigm, perhaps. I think a big part of what we do, providing healthcare, is we want to be the best quality, excellence in everything that we do. We want to be safe, and that is such a key focus for us. We are servant leaders, and we want to have a great experience for everyone who comes across our doors. And I can tell you that it's not just those seeking care. We have the best Sunday brunch in town. So not many hospitals can say that, but we do.
You mean in the restaurant at
Yes, sir. Yeah.
the Sunday brunch is outstanding?
Oh, it is outstanding. Yeah,
I'm in. I've had one. The food is amazing,
it really is.
but I didn't know about the Sunday brunch. Okay.
But I think it's really excellence in everything that we do,
Mhm.
and I think part of the stigma, there's a fear in healthcare.
Yes.
How do we become a destination for our community in a way where it takes a bit of that away?
Mhm.
So, why did we do a nearly 30-acre family park? We want to give back to our community. That's why we're here.
Mhm.
So, safety and quality service, we want to be great stewards of our resources. And I think if you do all those things, the success will come, And what's been great about this, kind of getting back to, we want to be great stewards of the money that has been entrusted to our care. We're a community asset. We want to honor and build our people. You cannot invest enough in your people and strengthen those relationships, because when you're able to connect this organ and this organ, that's where that discretionary effort comes in. And I
Mhm.
think that our colleagues are truly called to serve at Parkview and believe in our mission, and that has led to a great culture. And I think from a marketing standpoint, while I love to tell the Parkview story, I mean, I should be wearing my green tie today. I can tell you that our community has done a great job of telling our story.
Mm,
And I think a big part of it has been keeping our patients, our community at the center of everything that we do.
mm. You talked about stewarding resources. Part of that for you is giving.
Mhm.
You give enormously to our community. How do you decide how to give, either through the foundation or through the organization? How do you decide where to give, and what are you looking for
Mhm.
when you invest those resources?
Great question. I think that Parkview has actually, I was a little intrigued when I was first coming into the organization because Mike and others told me we tithe back into our community. And I said, that means something very specific to me. And knowing his background, I said, tell me more. And certainly, I mean, we are a 501c3 not-for-profit healthcare organization. The IRS has certain guidelines around that. That, I would say, is not irrelevant. It's an important thing by all means, but that's not the reason why we do what we do. And to me, I think the motivation, the why, says everything about that. So we have invested purposefully in other organizations, recognizing that it's not just about us, it's about us.
Mm,
And our purpose for being is to be a salve, a healing balm for this community. And so we want to be in a position of strength and where we're resilient enough to be here for our community to serve healthcare needs, but to invest strategically in others. And what's exciting is with the growth that you alluded to earlier, that's opening up so many new possibilities for us to invest in innovation. There are so many great ideas in our community, and being able to really provide those resources to help those dreams become realities, it's incredible what's on the horizon.
you've partnered with Cleveland Clinic,
Correct.
and how did that come about? That seems like a very innovative thing.
Absolutely. So with our institutes, we have 3 institutes where we have looked to a national expert to partner. Our goal isn't just to be the best in town or the best in the region. We want to be the best, period. And so in order to be the best, you need to work with the best. So Cleveland Clinic, we are one of only 8 affiliates nationally with whom there is a clinical affiliation. Our Cancer Institute is connected to now MD Anderson,
Mhm.
and one of just, I believe, 18 clinical affiliates there. And our Women's and Children's program is connected to Cincinnati Children's, the #2 hospital in the country. Part of the reason we chose that was just the geographic proximity. And what that's allowing us to do is really challenge the current paradigm. And while what we are doing is great, we continue to strive for excellent. And our medical staff is growing. What's been great, though, is to hear the feedback from these other places. It's impressive when you have a leader from the Cleveland Clinic say, the reason we chose you isn't just because we know we can help you, we believe you can help us.
Oh my. Oh my. I bet you can see how God's vision's followed by his provision in your transition here
Mm.
when you hear things like that.
It's been so affirming in a lot of ways. And yeah, I mean, his hand has just been amazing. And I'm sure as you've experienced, there have been challenging times, there have been times of great success and triumph. I will just say we serve a faithful God and he honors his word.
He sure does.
Yeah.
You're a great dad. And you're a dad of girls, so you're sensitive. Um, you took one of your daughters to the top of a mountain and showed her a view, and you shared some things with her. I wonder if you could share that.
Absolutely. So, one-on-one time with the girls, it's just such a precious thing. Um, I mean, just as a quick aside, I remember my mom and my dad telling me that they prayed for me even before I was here. And so I thought, even as a young man, I'm praying for my spouse, I'm praying for the children that you're going to bless me with someday. And so, as you shared, happened to be on a vacation with my family and took my oldest to a mountaintop. And we happened to look out, and there was this bay and a beautiful rainbow over this bay. And we talked about the promise. I was able to share with her everything that I felt as a young man, praying for who she would be and starting to see these things manifest in her as a young woman and call out those things that are inside of her. It's almost like that key to unlock that. Um, but to just hold her beautiful face in my hands and to pray a prayer over her as only a dad, as only a parent could. What a stir it is in my heart. And at the same time, to even recognize, how does he feel about us?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I tell you, I learned so much about God's love toward me and others just based on what I experienced within my own family.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm a dad of 4 daughters, and you're about sending me down for the count.
I'm sorry, man.
It's okay. I'd like you to talk about your personal faith growth and how your parenting flows from that. What do you do with the Bible? What do you do with prayer? I don't know if you journal, church, small groups, other men that you get together with. What's your pattern of your faith being enacted in your family?
Sure. You know, I spend time in the Word. Just this morning, was God seems the theme He's really working me through today or in these days is faith and the role that faith plays in our life. If I can, just as a quick aside, I've been in the book of Mark and thinking about that story where Jairus had reached out to the Lord and had said, "Come heal my daughter."
Mm-hmm.
And the role that faith played not only in healing the woman with the issue of blood, but how Jairus' daughter was healed. And then if you go to Mark 6, how he returns to his hometown and he was limited in what he could do because he was astonished, amazed at the lack of faith.
Mm-hmm.
So I think faith in our lives, my dad always told us never destroy anyone's faith because we need to build that relationship, build that muscle and draw them closer to God. So time in the Word, time in prayer is very key. I spend time, I at least attempt to spend time every day with my girls.
That's priceless.
And I find that time at the end of the day is great. Sometimes I feel like when I get it right, it's just being quiet. And even if she's doing her thing and I'm doing my thing, but being together, just together is so key. I think that, I get pulled in so many different directions. I'd love to be a part of a small group. But that's something, I guess, the elder team is part of my small group, and we get together on a monthly basis.
Yeah, well, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Ben, thank you so much. You are an amazing leader. God is using you mightily, and what's so cool is you can just see there's so much more that's going to be on your horizon, and I just can't wait to see it.
Thank you. Well,
Thanks for being with us.
Privilege of being your friend, my friend.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Love you, brother.
Right. Love you too.
Hello, everybody. My name is Naoki, and I want you to join me next week on Restoration Road.
Watch it till the end.